What's up everyone, Darcblade here with the next episode in my Agents of Overwatch series, where we take a look at the heroes in the game, going over their lore, abilities, pros, cons and more. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the tank that can dish out a lot of damage at close range, Roadhog. Roadhog's former identity was Maker Rutledge, a former enforcer from Australia. Roadhog is now a killer with an infamous reputation for cruelty and destruction. After the Omnic crisis, government officials gifted Australia Omnium and the surrounding area to the Omnics that had nearly destroyed their country, hoping to establish a long-term peace accord. The arrangement permanently displaced Mako and a large number of outback residents, a scattered collection of survivalists, solar farmers and people who wanted to just be left alone. Furious over the loss of their homes, Mako and the others turned to violent rebellion. They formed the Australian Liberation Front and struck against the Omnium and its robot population to take back the land that had been stolen from them. Events continued to escalate until the rebels sabotaged the Omnium's fusion core, resulting in an explosion that destroyed the facility, irradiating the region and obliterating the outback, and littered the outback with twisted metal and wreckage for miles around. Mako watched as his home became an apocalyptic wasteland, and he was forever changed. Adapting to his environment, he donned a gas mask and took to the broken highway of the outback on his ramshack chopper. Little by little, his humanity was forgotten. The last of Mako faded away, and a ruthless killer, Roadhog, was born. Shortly after, Roadhog joined forces with Junkrat. Junkrat had come into information that put his life at risk, and Roadhog grudgingly agreed to become Junkrat's bodyguard in exchange for a 50% split of the profits. Together they set off on a crime spree from Sydney to London. They even went as far as to steal the crown jewels from the UK. Many nations, including Britain, France and Latin America, have a massive bounty on the duo, as their rampage has caused massive amounts of property damage. Now moving on to look at the weapons and abilities Roadhog wields. Roadhog is a 1-star difficulty tank hero. He has 600 health, making him one of the heroes with the highest health in the game. As a result of his high durability though, Roadhog is fairly slow and a very large target. Roadhog's main weapon is his scrap gun. This crude and bulky weapon fires shrapnel at its targets. It also has 2 firing modes. The first is akin to a shotgun, firing a short-range blast that can be deadly to enemies in close range. The damage of the blast can be 2 to 9 per pellet depending on distance to the target. The blast also launches 25 pellets per shot. Unfortunately, the rate of fire for this weapon is 1 shot per second. The alternative fire allows the scrap gun to fire pellets up to 9 meters in a ball projectile before exploding to deliver a similar damage to the shotgun blast at a longer distance. However, if the ball hits a target before exploding, it will deliver just 50 damage to that target instead. Using this alternative fire has a rate of fire of 0.75 shots per second, making it slower than the primary fire. The biggest drawback of the scrap gun is that it only holds 4 shells, which can lead to a lot of downtime reloading. If you land a headshot with a lot of the pellets hitting the target's head or critical areas, this weapon can deal a lot of damage, especially at close ranges, potentially one-shotting a lot of weaker characters. Roadhog's first ability is Take a Breather. Once the ability is activated, Roadhog will pull out a special canister and proceed to inhale it into his gas mask. While he breathes in, it will restore 300 of Roadhog's health over the course of 1.5 seconds. During this time, Roadhog cannot perform any other action until the animation is complete. You also cannot spam heal yourself with the Take a Breather ability because it comes with an 8-second cooldown. Take a Breather is a great survivability tool, but it can leave Roadhog open to attack, especially if you use it in line of sight of enemies. Roadhog's next ability is Chain Hook. Once used, Roadhog will throw out a chain, which acts like a linear, slow projectile at the location he was aiming. It will travel up to 20 meters and deal 30 damage if it should hit a foe. On top of that, if the chain hook hits a target, then the target will be hooked, and the unlucky opponent will be dragged toward Roadhog, putting him into close combat melee range, as well as stunning them for a brief second. The chain hook cannot be spammed, as it comes with a 6-second cooldown. The chain hook is a key ability to Roadhog's ability to deal damage. There is a rotation that should be taken into account here. First, chain hook a foe, followed up by a standard blast with the scrap gun, followed by a melee hit. If done fast enough, then Roadhog can kill most heroes who have up to 200 health in the span of a second or two. You also have to be a little bit wary when using the chain hook, as you can accidentally hook Junkrat's Riptire or Diva's mech after its self-destruction has been activated. There is one achievement and trophy tied to the chain hook ability. It's called Giving You the Hook, and requires you to chain hook an enemy and interrupt their ultimate ability during quick play or competitive. Not too difficult, and one of the easy achievements to get in the game. Roadhog's ultimate ability is Whole Hog. Once activated, Roadhog will proceed to quickly modify his scrap gun, allowing it to spew out bullets and pellets rapidly. He will continuously fire the weapon for the course of the ultimate's use. During these 6 seconds of use, the weapon will deal up to a potential of 5,000 damage. However, the weapon does come with a knockback effect, allowing Roadhog to push foes away from objectives or off the map if you're playing on a map that has edges. Despite having high damage capabilities, thanks to the knockback effect, it can be difficult to kill high health targets unless coupled with movement restricting ally abilities or by catching an enemy against a wall. During the time that Whole Hog is active, Roadhog's movement is not restricted, so it can freely move. You will be able to tell when Roadhog has used his ultimate by him making this sound. Same sound for enemy Roadhogs and ally Roadhogs, although allies will be quieter than your enemies. Lastly, Whole Hog can be interrupted by abilities that stun foes, and thus knocking Roadhog out of his ultimate altogether. Roadhog has one achievement and trophy tied to Whole Hog. It's called Hog Wild, and requires players to knock 2 enemies off the map to their death in a single use of Whole Hog in quick or competitive play. This is a lot easier to achieve on maps like Ilios that have areas where falling to your death is easy to achieve. While every character can take on every other character in the game, there are some matchups that can clearly be in a certain character's favour. Roadhog has an easy time dealing with weak characters with low health pools. Thanks to his chain hook, he can take away the strongest aspect of some characters, such as their speed or positioning. These can include characters like Tracer, Genji, Zenyatta, Bastion, or even Mercy. However, there are opponents that can deal with Roadhog. If he lacks the chain hook, then he can struggle with fast characters like Tracer and Genji. He can also struggle with heroes who can perform well at close ranges like Mei or Reaper. He can also have problems with characters who can block his chain hook, like Reinhardt. Of course, player skill should always be taken into account. Just because a hero should easily be better than another hero on paper doesn't mean that will always be the case during a match. The pros and cons for Roadhog are as follows. Firstly, he has high burst damage with his chain hook combo. Next, he has a very high health pool. Next, he can self-heal. And lastly, he is a bit of a jack of all trades tank. But, however, he does have cons. Firstly, he is slow and is a large target. And lastly, unlike other tanks, he cannot shield his allies. The design of Roadhog can be compared to that of something from the world of Mad Max. The Aussie wasteland garb he wears is akin to what character designs are like from that franchise. At first glance though, Roadhog is not the most appealing of characters aesthetically, to the point where you can even be put off playing him. His giant belly and attire can be attributed to this, but if you can get past this, or can get into the spirit of the character, you will find him enjoyable to play. Overall, Roadhog is a bit of an oddball tank. He doesn't provide the standard support you would expect a tank to do, like shielding their allies. Instead, Roadhog is a bit of a jack of all trades tank, as he can dish out decent damage at close range, medium ranges, he can self-heal, and he even has a form of crowd control with his hook. Mastering the combo of chain hook, scrap gun, shotgun blast, and then melee will allow you to deal massive burst damage and deal with a lot of the low health heroes. You can, if you want, even add the alternative fire scrap gun blast before the chain hook combo for a little bit of extra damage. Roadhog can be a great choice of either a main tank or even an off tank thanks to his offensive capabilities. He's also great for players who are more used to offensive heroes and dealing damage. He also has the added advantage of not necessarily needing a healer with him at all times thanks to his self-healing, which in turn will allow the team's healer to focus on other heroes that may have taken damage. Roadhog really is a dangerous foe to tangle with, especially in close combat. Without focusing damage on him, then he can prove incredibly durable, making him difficult to kill, let alone move from a control point or payload. All of this makes Roadhog a positive pick in my books. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing my Agents of Overwatch guide to Roadhog. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.
Огонь по готовности!
Incoming!